Presenting virtually, please welcome Stephanie Morman of FirstEnergy.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Morman, and I am the manager of our work management systems team here at FirstEnergy. I've been with FirstEnergy for just about 14 years, and really all of my time here has been focused on improving our business processes through the use of technology. I'm here today with Brenda Bennett from my team, and we certainly wish that we were with you all. They're enjoying beautiful San Diego, but we still appreciate the opportunity to share with you all some of the experiences that we've had. If you do have questions during the presentation, there will be mic runners, I understand, around the room, so please just raise your hand and someone will bring a mic over to you. So before we get into the details, just a little bit about FirstEnergy. We do pride ourselves at being a forward-thinking electric utility centered on integrity, powered by a diverse team of employees committed to making our customers' lives brighter, the environment better, and our communities stronger. We are headquartered right here in beautiful Akron, Ohio, and we have 12,400 employees that serve over 6 million customers in 5 states. We are among the largest investor-owned electric utilities in the US, and we are currently made up of 10 regulated operating companies. I think it's important to understand the history and the background of our history with ARCOS. Back in 2016, I was asked to lead a project that was generated out of the Pennsylvania Management Audit to look at all of our call-out processes across our Pennsylvania operating companies, and we have 4 of them. We had recently gone through a merger with the former Allegheny Energy companies, which took us from having 7 opcos up to 10. And Allegheny had been using ARCOS call out for many years at that point. So you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would have said. We selected ARCOS as our call out provider. And in 2017, January of 2017, we kicked off that implementation project. Then in February, I actually attended my very first ARCOS conference solo. So for anybody out there who this is your first ARCOS conference, congratulations on joining a really great group of people. I really have learned so much from all of our industry peers, and that's the thing I love about the utility industry is we can share openly. And I really wish I was there in person to see you all and to meet you, but enjoy this experience. Because at the time I really had no idea what I was getting myself or FirstEnergy into. We took almost a year to get our first operating companies live with call out. And the decision there was really around integrating the call out module into our existing application landscape. As the manager of the work management systems, you know, I'm responsible for all these applications. And for us, it was really important that ARCOS become an integrated part of that landscape. And I think that by doing that, we've really set a great foundation for us for how we're operating today. It took us another 22 months to complete our call out implementation. Again, 7 operating companies left at that point, 20 different union locals with wildly different call out rules. That's kind of really what contributed to that overall timeline. However, we didn't waste much time. After we finished our call out implementation, we moved right into a new project where we implemented crew manager, resource assist, and incident manager all at once. We seemed to take at least a year to do anything. So again, with a company of our size, when we went live with these 3 modules, again, we integrated them into our application landscape. And our go live was on November 12th of 2020. This date is very firmly set in Brenda's and my mind because it was just 3 days later on November 15th that we were hit by a massive winter storm that impacted 9 out of our 10 operating companies. And it was a very grueling 5-day event with having brand new processes and brand new systems. And of course, just 10 days after we closed that incident, we got hit again. At least this time it only took us 3 days to get restored. But needless to say, you know, this experience gave us a lot of practice and gave us the opportunity to look at the gaps that we had in our current system. And to put it very bluntly, we were all passengers on the struggle bus when we went through those first couple events. So why did we decide to do this enterprise-wide exercise? I mean, this is something that, as a very large company, we had never attempted anything like this before. It was something that we kicked around as part of the project team as we were going through our implementation. And we thought it would be a great way to provide some hands-on experience for our end users, because right now at FirstEnergy, we're only using a crew manager and resource assist for storm restoration, not on blue sky days. We just thought that additional practice would be helpful for our end users not having to be in the stress of an event. We had also planned on doing this after we conducted a few storms. Since our go live was at the end of the year, those of you who maybe not be from the rural Midwest and may not understand our pastimes, the fall, November, December timeframe in Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, that means hunting season. So we have a lot of people out at the end of the year, and we thought having this training refresher, after the first would give those folks who maybe were out some more understanding of the process. And it's honestly been our experience that people ask more and, quite frankly, better questions after they've used it for a period of time. So we just felt like the timing was right. We thought that leaning into that regional ICS structure and the natural support system would be helpful for teams, especially those that are new in their storm roles. And we had made some system modifications, after those first two events. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to test and get some feedback on some of those changes. So I'm going to pass it to Brenda now, who is going to talk a little bit about the logistics that were involved for this. So Brenda, pass it to you. Don't forget to unmute.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brenda Bennett, and I am a technical specialist in the work management system at FirstEnergy. And as Stephanie said, I do work for her. She didn't twist my arm to do this, though. Now, I've been with the company for almost 16 years, and I came from the former Allegheny company. So the one thing that I can say is that I truly have used ARCOS in almost every form and fashion since I started my career. We were using, as Stephanie said, we were using call out in the old Allegheny companies before the merger. So when FirstEnergy made the decision to start using call out for the other operating companies, that was great for us. Now, my storm role within FirstEnergy is that I'm the resource tracking process unit leader. I know that's a mouthful to say all at once. I also help support the mutual assistance organization. When I was in the operating companies, my storm role was resource tracking unit leader. So between my previous storm experience and my ARCOS experience, I'm becoming somewhat of a storm and ARCOS SME for FirstEnergy. I do have to laugh because those who work with me during the storms call me the storm queen. So I was really excited when we made the decision as a group to conduct this drill for the operating companies, because I thought it was a great opportunity for all of them. Now, as Stephanie mentioned earlier, we do have 10 different operating companies, and you can well imagine what it's like when we try to do things. It's really easy for everyone to do something different. So we wanted to have the ability for each of our operating companies and for us to be able to support each other should that need arise. So it was very important within FirstEnergy that we have a process that went across the entire footprint. Hence, the unified process was born. Now, the unified process that we follow looks at an incident from 3 different perspectives. We look at it from the receiving company, we look at the sending company, and then we also look at the emergency operations logistics section. Now, that section also includes the mutual assistance unit. Now, along with 3 perspectives, there are also 3 distinct phases in the unified process. Phase one of the unified process is the mobilization phase. And during the mobilization phase, just like it sounds, we're mobilizing resources. Our task and focus during this time period is to figure out how many resources do we need, where are we going to get those resources, how are they going to get here, and what are we going to do with them once they arrive. Now, also during this time, not only are we acquiring outside resources, but we're also mobilizing our own resources, our baseline resources within each of our operating companies. Phase two of the unified process, the restoration phase. Now, I always refer to this as the work phase because this is when all the real work's being done, at least by the field personnel. The receiving companies, they're going to be monitoring and coordinating the check-in process at all of the service centers. They're also going to be establishing communication with the hospitality units. They're going to review any additional lodging requirements that we might have or any changes that are going to take place. During this phase also, we may be reallocating resources throughout the operating companies. The receiving companies coordinating any additional requirements or resources that they may need with the mutual assistance organization as well. Now, the sending companies. The sending companies, once they send their resources, they're not off the hook just yet because they're going to continue to monitor their traveling crews. And they also are going to be prepared to assist the receiving company on an as-needed basis. The mutual assistance organization, they're going to be monitoring the mutual assistance assignment perspectives. They're allocating the resources to the correct incident once they've arrived in their perspective. And they're also going to be assisting both the sending and the receiving companies. They could continue to acquire resources if those are needed. They're also going to be assisting the responding partners with any system issues that they may have. Now, those of us in the Emergency Operations Center, we're going to be monitoring each of the incidents. We're going to be assisting both the operating companies, the sending companies, and the mutual assistance organization as needed. Now, phase three. Phase three would be the demobilization phase. The receiving company will develop a release strategy. They're going to convey that release strategy, and then the releases will begin. There'll be communication with the mutual assistance unit to verify if resources, both responding partners and FE operating resources, are required elsewhere. If those resources aren't required elsewhere, then the receiving company will begin the release of resources. They'll start reassigning those operating company resources back to the sending companies, and responding partners will be returned to the mutual assistance organization if they're not needed elsewhere. They'll also work with hospitality group so that lodging assignments are removed and hotel accommodations can be closed. Now, while the receiving company is doing all that, the sending companies, they're going to start monitoring for the release of their crews or the returning status of their crews. And they're going to monitor them. And once they've arrived home, it's the sending company's responsibility to process that final release of resources. The mutual assistance organization, they're going to go ahead and work with the release of the responding partners, and they're going to close out all of the off-system responding partner requests that have taken place in Resource Assist. Once all of the resources have been released and proper communication's been provided to all parties, the incidents are going to be closed and archived. Now, with an enterprise-wide functional exercise, because of the scope of this exercise, we decided that it was going to go over a 3-day period. We seem to do things, as Stephanie said, it takes us a year and we do them in 3s. This gave participants the opportunity to use the system and to kind of understand what they were doing without the pressure of a real incident. It gave them time to ask questions. We knew in the beginning, we started this project, and lo and behold, that's when COVID hit. So we had to do virtual trainings. And in the beginning, we're just giving them all of this information. And as Stephanie said, we don't use this process every single day. This is only for storm restoration. So in those days, back in the beginning, I always say that we didn't really know what we didn't know to ask questions. So now we've got a little bit of experience under our belt, and the operating companies have had a little bit of experience with the system. And we figured that this would allow them the opportunity to ask questions as they were doing it. We had approximately 250 participants. They were from all branches of the ICS section and from each and every role. Now, as Stephanie said, this was the first time we had ever considered, let alone attempt, an event of this magnitude. Believe me, in the beginning, we questioned, what in the world were we thinking? Were we overdoing it with this many people being involved? But we needed to have all of these participants because we wanted it to resemble a real incident. We wanted it to simulate that actual event for them. But we didn't want that stress. We needed to also evaluate the new system and the processes for any potential pinch points that we needed. And we had made some tweaks after the first two incidents. So we wanted to see how those processes and tweaks were working. We also felt that this gave us the visibility on what we could do to improve processes for the operating companies. It gives the operating companies the chance to evaluate their needs and focus without the pressure, as I said, of a real incident. Now, the logistical considerations when we were doing this were huge. Logistics for this event were a major concern because, again, we were in the virtual environment and we had to figure out how are we going to pull this off. We did have the ARCOS QA environment, and we had set up our QA environment so it mirrored the production environment. We had recently started utilizing Microsoft Teams during our storm incidents. We had set up channels for each of our operating companies. We also had a mutual assistance channel. We had a technical support channel and the FirstEnergy operations, or the Emergency Operations Center, along with forestry. So we decided that we wanted this incident or this event to mimic a real incident. So why not use our Teams channels as well? Now, by utilizing the Teams function, this also allowed participants to ask questions and for everyone to see the questions and also be able to see the answers. It gave us the ability to communicate with each other. During the event, we utilized breakout rooms, the breakout room function that's in Teams. This gave each of the operating companies and the storm groups their ability to work together in their own section. Each of the resource tracking unit leaders facilitated the breakout sessions for the operating companies. Work management and the EP organization, we monitored each of the different breakout sessions. I always say we were the flies on the wall. We were able to enter different sessions and observe what was going on. And if necessary, we could provide a little bit of guidance and we could answer any questions. However, it was very important that this was an operating company's exercise and we wanted them to coordinate their own groups. We figured that we wanted it to be as realistic as possible, and this allowed them the opportunity to build trust within the resource tracking teams and realize that they could depend on each other if they had a problem or had a question. We felt that it would help build a cohesive resource group for each of them. And it also gave the other branches the opportunity to work with the resource groups. The exercise did span 3 days. We started each day as a group, one big group, and then we had our breakout rooms. And then at the end of the day, we regrouped and we kind of did a debrief for the day and we did a wrap up session. Now, Stephanie's going to talk a little bit about the ARCOS modules that we did utilize during this event.
All right, thank you, Brenda. So as Brenda mentioned, with our unified process, we really had the opportunity to exercise all of the ARCOS modules that we had implemented. In the mobilization phase, we used Incident Manager to create the event, which in our implementation at FirstEnergy, that event is at the FE level, and then we create incidents under that event for each of our impacted operating companies. We also use Incident Manager to activate all of our ICS roles. Our supervisors and our regional leaders used the call-out module to activate all of our other internal resources. Our regional resource trackers used Resource Assist to activate their on-system contractors, and the Mutual Assistance Unit, which is my group, used Resource Assist to activate off-system, as well as any resources that we acquired through the RMAG process. During the restoration phase, this is where Crew Manager really takes center stage. We use Crew Manager to do the crewing of all our internal crews that were called out through the call-out module. Our hospitality uses Crew Manager for lodging. Our check-in, check-out processes are all done in Crew Manager. And we also use it, those checked-in crews from Crew Manager are then interfaced directly over into our outage management system so that work can be assigned to them. And then finally, in demobilization, we used Crew Manager to do all the releases for internal crews and used Resource Assist to release our contract resources. And then finally, we closed everything back out again in Incident Manager. Before I go on, I just want to pause. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, I can't tell if anybody's moving. So, oh, I think I see a hand go up.
Hi, it's Chris Delzangel with Eversource Energy. Did you have any pushback from Blue Sky managers when you requested the 250 participants?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. Yeah, we initially, we, like Brenda said, we had a little bit of pushback, but we talked with them. They understood the importance of people learning the new system and the new process, and they remembered what those first couple of storms were like. They knew it was a struggle. So we were able to get, like Brenda said, representation from pretty much almost every service center that we have. And we have probably close to 200 service centers across our footprint. And so we had a lot of participation. So yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle, but all we had to do was remind them of those first few storms. And they're like, yeah, go ahead, take the couple days. And we didn't use every person every single day. So like I mentioned, we did the initial call out. Okay, that's where the supervisors come in, the frontline supervisors. So we used them on day 1, but we really didn't use them on day 2 or day 3, right? So we broke it up into different modules so that not all of those 250 people had to be available all 3 days. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Anybody else? I see yes. Danny running.
Hi, Stephanie. Art with San Diego Gas Electric.
Hey, Art.
First of all, sorry you couldn't be here with us.
Yeah, we are too.
My question is, for Incident Manager, when you said you created your event and then you created your incident, was it incident per the impacted utility, or was it an actual incident, a sub of that actual event, like you maybe had a flood with something else occur which created?
Yeah, I understand your question. No, we create the incidents at the operating company level. So for our reporting purposes, the events are created for, Hurricane Sandy, right? As an example, Hurricane Sandy is the event. The incident is Hurricane Sandy impacting JCP&L. So we do it at each of the operating companies. So if we have 9 out of our 10 opcos were impacted, we have 9 incidents that all relate up to the same event. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Anybody else? Okay, Danny, am I good to continue?
Yes, you are.
All right. Miss you.
Me too.
I know. All right, so we're going to move on and just talk about our exercise structure a little bit. Luke Anderson from our emergency preparedness group really did a nice job in designing a very realistic scenario for this exercise. As Brenda mentioned, we did break it down into 3 days, each of which covered a different phase of our unified process. So day 1 really served to be our mobilization day. And like I mentioned with the question, that's when we mobilized. That's when we did the call outs. That's when we, had our storm impact and understood what was facing us, that we had this massive winter storm. We activated a level 5 event. We began to do call outs and mobilize all our internal crews. We also set targets and acquired additional contract resources to support our regions. So that was all about day 1. On day 2, we focused on the restoration phase. And at this point in our exercise scenario, most of our operating companies were nearing the completion of their restoration. So we began moving resources around internally to support those opcos that still needed additional support. And so that covered day 2. And then day 3 was all about demob. We transitioned our internal crews back to Blue Sky Day operations, and we went through the release of all of our contractors. All right, so Brenda is going to talk a little bit now about some of the documentation that was really important for us during this exercise.
Thanks, Stephanie. Now, our emergency preparedness group, they took the lead on developing the documentation to lead us through the exercise. The documentation included the daily module of activities. We had sit reps. It included the weather alerts also. Now, we also gave them a list of the activities to be performed each day, along with the ICS branch who was responsible for performing those tasks. So it gave them a little bit of an opportunity too to see what each of the different branches had to do. Also, it included in the documentation were operating company specific injects. These included details of resource accounts and the internal crew movements for each of the operating companies. Now, just like anything else, we were anxious to get some feedback from the participants about the exercise. So, Stephanie, can you review some of the feedback that we received?
Absolutely. Okay, so like Brenda mentioned, we did conduct an AAR after the event to get some feedback from our participants. And the regions really did appreciate the opportunity to run through the motions of this process without the stress of being in an actual event. And they thought that the exercise and the resource counts were very realistic for something we would face. They had great conversations in their local teams through the use of those breakout rooms and at our daily debriefs. We had really good conversation. And they all thought it was very beneficial to see how the entire process worked together. So this is probably my favorite comment that we received back. I don't know if you can read that in there in the room, but it says, the exercise was informative, relatively fun, and absolutely worth the time. Now, I don't know about you guys, but we all giggled about that. Like, I didn't think anybody would ever think working a storm was relatively fun. But I'm very glad that someone thought that and enjoyed the exercise and got a lot out of it. So that was great. Of course, we did identify some ways in which we could improve. Again, this was the first time we had tried something of this magnitude. So we really wanted to learn and grow so that we can do it better the next time. It was very obvious from the exercise that we needed to conduct some refresher training, particularly in the call out module, ensuring the use of crew templates for Storm. Again, like I've mentioned before, we use call out every day, but we don't use crew templates. That's the thing that connects call out to crew manager. So we needed to do some refresher training for our frontline supervisors because again, they do call outs all the time, but needing to remember to do that crew template is important. And Brenda actually just concluded a lot of training on resource assist, for our internal resource tracking crews and our mutual assistance units. We did identify some things that we would do differently the next time we conducted an exercise like this. So, and I'll talk here in a little bit about how we're going to move forward with this process. But last thing that we did identify was to make some clarification in our perspective tree in Crew Manager to really make sure it was easy for the regional resource groups to understand the difference between the sending and receiving perspectives. As Brenda mentioned, they could play one or two roles depending on that particular event. So it was important for us just in the clarification and naming conventions that we got all those perspectives very clear for them. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so what's next? Based on this feedback, we are going to shoot for kind of an every other year type exercise like this. Again, we got support from leadership. They were very supportive. They really did understand the value of taking a couple of days out of our schedule to make sure that we're comfortable and that everybody understands what their roles are when we get into an event. The other thing we want to do is in the off years, when we don't conduct an enterprise-wide event, we want to do some focused exercises, particularly in the areas of mutual assistance and involving some of our responding partners. If those of you who were in my session yesterday, the breakout about onboarding contractors, if not, take a look at it later because I think they're all recorded so you can watch it. That's one of the things that we learned from that process is just our contractors are going through this learning curve too. And so the more we can do to bring them together with us is just going to help us as we get into the next event. Okay, so that is all we had. Again, I want to thank everybody for your time and attention. I want to thank you for your questions. I do wish we were there with you, but we will open up the floor now. If there's any additional questions that Brenda and I can answer, we'd be happy to do so.
We got one.
Okay. I can see you, Dan.
Sorry, I don't mean to hog the mic. It's Chris from FirstEnergy Energy again.
Hey, Chris.
Hi. How many crews did you preload going into this, or did you preload crews going into this? And did you preload dummy crews, or did you use real live rosters through RA?
Brenda?
We did not preload anything. We had them loading them there that day, and we used real live. No, let me see. RA we used. I'm sorry. Yeah, RA we did use dummy crews.
Right, but what we did, we had some people in the mutual assistance unit playing the role of a contractor. So in QA, we set up the QA responding partner portal. And like I have my personal email address is in there as a contractor. Same thing with all of us in the mutual assistance unit. So we could mimic the exact same function, right, that we would do in a real event. Because we wanted our regional resource trackers, they're the ones responsible for onboarding their on-system contractors. So we want them to use Resource Assist. And again, we wanted it to be as realistic as possible. So I think I played the role of two contractors during that storm, where they would put the request in, and I would go into the portal and respond to their request. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. How many total did you have? I ask because we're having a drill coming up, and there's a big number we're going to load, and I'm a little concerned about it, but.
Yeah, you got to try it and see how it works, right?
Yeah,
and
we're not at Resource Assist yet, but
okay.
But so we're going to be using a template. But I'm curious how many you loaded prior, or the day of.
We didn't load them prior. We went through that whole process as the event was occurring. But I think, Brenda, we probably used 3 or 4 different contractor companies, but they each provided resources to each OpCo. So it was, I don't know, maybe 50, 60, 70 crews total.
Yeah, I would say, because remember, we had 10 operating companies that we had to load crews to.
Right. And we use RA Lite too. That's the other thing I wanted to mention. We use RA Lite currently for any contractor that we don't have a connection with. They also come over to Crew Manager because we set the attributes up in such a way that we can load them in. So we did have an RMAG crew is how we refer to them. So, just again, a made up company that we used that say we acquired them through a regional mutual assistance call and they had never used ARCOS before, they were not in the portal. So how does that process work differently? How do you use RA Lite to go into that request? That's something the mutual assistance unit does. But our own people were going through this, exercise as well. So it was good practice for them. And they do show up slightly differently in Crew Manager. So we wanted them to see what the difference was.
And not only that, is that we have a different demobilization process too for
That's correct.
resource assistant like crews as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Hey, Stephanie, it's Luke from TICO. I think you
Hey,
already.
Luke.
I think you answered my question. You talked about a template, and I was like, you lost me between call out and crew manager, the template. But I guess what you're referring to is RE Lite for contractors that are not in your system currently working on your actual, for your companies. You're using RE Lite to load them in the system. Is that correct?
That is correct, but I want to clarify my comment about the crew template. So when you're running a call out, there is, and I don't have the screen up, so I would throw it up here and I'd show you. But when you're running a call out and you want that crew to go into Crew Manager, there is a button, a drop down that you have to set, and you have to create crew templates. And I don't know if someone is there in the room from ARCOS who wants to jump in and explain this better than I am, but there is a crew template that you have to set for that call out so that crew and the people that respond to that call out show up in Crew Manager for you to then pair up and assign to an actual crew. Is that making sense, Luke? That's what I was referring to when I mentioned the template.
Okay, I'll probably get offline with you and maybe have you demonstrate it for me because I
Yeah.
kind of got lost. I've never seen the template before, so it must be something new I'm just not aware of.
That's okay. Danny, or does anybody there in ARCOS want to explain what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, only that, Luke, only that I don't think you have it yet. I don't think you have the crew template enabled. Okay,
And we
so-
only use we don't use the crew template on the resource assist crews or the resource assist late. They're only used for our internal crews to come from call out over into Crew Manager so that they can do the crewing process there.
Correct. Yeah, there is a separate template that is part of RA Lite. And Luke, I referred to that yesterday. It has to do with the attributes that we set up when we did the design and configuration of Resource Assist. We identified which attributes are important to drive our Crew Manager process. And so those attributes have to be in that file that the contractors respond to the questions, fill it all out completely, just like very similar to ROD if you used ROD before, that we then upload. So there's actually two templates here, depending upon what module you're talking about. The RA Lite is for contractors. The crew template that I'm referring to is specifically for communicating those that respond to the call out and putting them into Crew Manager.
And as the support
Okay,
team,
I saw the thumbs up.
yeah, the support team has offered to do a demonstration sometime later today. So if anybody else wants to see that, at the risk of creating a throng around the support table, there you go. Oh, they'll do it out on the patio.
Well, there you
Oh,
By the pool.
Sorry.
I want to come.
All right, any other questions?
Yep.
Hey, Stephanie, it's Hunter. Good to see you virtually. Wish you were
Hunter.
here.
I know. You
Quick
owe me a
question.
drink next time.
Of
or three.
course. Of course.
Yeah.
So, did anyone from ARCOS help support this drill at all? Yes or no, it doesn't matter. And then thinking about the future, and you're going to be running these drills every couple of years, if there's anything that we can do to support moving forward, then you don't have to answer that right now, but think about that, and we'll certainly support your endeavors however you need us to.
Yeah, so we did actually have some folks from ARCOS who listened in to
Great.
the call. I think, is that PJ sitting next to you? It's a little dark. Hi, PJ.
Hi, PJ.
We had PJ, we had Chris, I think Andrew, I think maybe a few others, maybe Jason. Can't remember who else, but there was a number of folks from ARCOS that did in fact listen in and kind of watch and observe how it all went. And I know you all, PJ, you can maybe take the microphone from Hunter there, but I know you guys had a debrief afterwards of some things that you saw and some of the conversations that were going on, and had some ideas from it as well, as we did.
So we did observe. We had the opportunity by invitation to watch. We also did our best to keep quiet because we wanted to make sure that the bumps you ran into, we didn't smooth them over too quickly to make sure you
Right.
developed your own internal processes. But afterwards,
Right.
we provided our general feedback, any best practices. And I know that if you do it again, I'd be more than happy to watch again.
Yeah, I think it was a really good learning experience for us as a product support team. Again, we're the product owners of ARCOS at FirstEnergy. So anytime people are using our products and our systems, we want to know what worked, what didn't work, what can we do better next time. And I think it was just a really great opportunity for us and for ARCOS to listen in, learn, observe it in action, and see how we could move forward better together. So thank you. Anything else? Okay, I can't tell what's going on there, Danny. Oh, I see clapping. Okay, I can't hear if anybody's talking or not.
No, you got a standing ovation.
Okay.
Well, a rousing ovation anyway.
A rousing ovation. All right. Well, I think that's it for us then. Everybody, continue to enjoy the rest of your the conference. Danny, someone's gonna have to let us know where the announcement is for the next conference, because
right.
we're not gonna be there tomorrow afternoon.
Right.
So when you do the big reveal, somebody send me a text or something.
Will do.
Or tag us in the conference app. If you guys do have other questions, our contact information is on the screen here. I think it's still on the screen. I don't know if it is. So you also have us in the conference app. So please feel free to reach out to us.
There you go.
Happy to have conversations. Again, if there's more questions you think of after the fact, please don't hesitate to reach out. Okay?
Thanks,
All right.
Stephanie.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.